Yeah, so as I said, debt is like borrowing money from a lender and to pay back in the future, while equity, it's taking capital from an outside investor in exchange for ownership or stake in your business. In order to make these decisions, you need to assess your business model and industry, okay? Your business model and industry. I gave you an example of maybe I discover COVID-19 aversion, okay? That is health industry. Maybe this product is on high demand, but I don't have the resources, okay? Financial need, what do you need the money for? Okay, the financial need can influence what kind of money you need, okay? And the stage of the business. Depending on the stage of the business, it also informs which will determine what kind of finance you need to take. Okay, some of the key differences between debt and equity, and I just want to emphasize, one, on debt, you are the owner. You make all the decisions, whether you make right decisions or wrong decisions, it's none of your financials interest. For him, they have given you money, do whatever you need to do, pay back. So influence on management, but on the equity, influence on management, you've got a new partner, so they have influence on management. For debt, it has a maturity date. That means you have to pay back. You are taking for a certain period. For equity, there's no maturity date. Usually they just exit. I can be there for 5 years and say, you can buy back from your stake, or I can sell to another investor, depending on how the company is doing. Okay. For debt, there's yearly obligations, and that is payment of interest. You have to pay interest. While in equity, there's no liability to pay dividends. Okay. Dividends is part of the money you pick from profits to share with the owners, co-owners. Okay. It's not a must, but if it is enough, we can pay. If it is not enough, well and good. Tax benefits. Now, debt interests are tax deductible. Okay, while dividends are not tax deductible. Okay, interests are tax deductible, while dividends are not. Okay, because debt is acceptable within the law. Okay, equity, somebody is taking a risk. Usually it's assumed there is just a partnership. Okay, amongst that. So, and that is why debt is considered more secure for financials, and that's why the rate is low. If we were to compare, for your information, if we were to compare, what does the investor benefit from debt and what does the investor benefit on equity? If you calculate internally, you realize on equity the investor gains more. But remember, it's taking a very huge risk to give you money without expecting payment and expecting things to work. So usually equity has a higher cost. Debt, it's less risky because you just negotiate and agree on the interest, and that is it. Okay. All right. Let me just continue this. All right. Let's continue. Okay, now at this point, I want to believe there is a section on your business plan which says funding requests. There's a section on your business plan that should be chapter, no, it should be chapter what? There's a section on your business plan which says funding requests. Okay, now based on where you are taking your company, you now know how much money you need. Okay, you know how much. At this point, you can say, I want this money as debt, I want this money as a loan, or I want this money as equity, or I want maybe I give you 100 million as you give me 100 million as loan, and maybe 150 as equity. You know, sometimes you may want a lot of money, but your business cannot accommodate. So usually it is recommended, obviously priority one, if the business can accommodate a loan, go for a loan. Okay, if it can accommodate and it has a financial need, but sometimes it cannot accommodate to pay the loan. So you can say, okay, we can only accommodate to pay up to a loan of up to 100 million, but the other, as much as, since we need 300 million, this 200, we would like to get it as equity so that you get some ownership in the business, while 100, you can take it as a loan. Okay, those are all possibilities. So on the section on the business plan that you have funding request, this is where you can fine tune and put, okay, how much money do you need? And in what form do you need that money? Okay, and this is usually based on the amount of money you are generating, because if you are making, say, 10 million and you take 200 million, okay, chances are you may need to balance it and say, okay, I'll take maybe 80 million as a debt, okay, so that I pay, then 120 as equity. Okay, and this money I needed to use in the following A, B, C, D. Okay, and when I get this money, are you seeing the way? When I get this money, our production will increase to 1,000 tons of the product, from 1,000 tons to 2,500 tons, while the sales will increase from 100 million to an annual turnover of 300 million. See, when you communicate this, somebody is convinced, this person knows where he is trying to go. Okay, so I just want to take a brief break so that you can review on the plans. I know it is a chapter in the business. I want us to take a break and just capture notes in terms of this is what it entails when you are doing a funding request. You now know what debt is. You now know what equity is. Okay, now since you know what debt is and what equity is, you now know, okay, if you are going to ask for money, what kind of structure? And as I've said, usually a debt is cheaper than equity, but usually take equity, especially when we need less risky money and we are still trying to fine tune our model, and probably we need more time, less risk. Okay, so debt you can evaluate based on the company capacity to afford, while equity, if the company is not in a position to afford, then it gets the partner on board so that you share the risk, but also the return once you start making the money, or if you make more money, or even if you make losses, he's still with you. That is the beauty of equity. Okay, happy to answer any questions with regards to funding request. This is this basically was the chapter I asked us to jump or to put in details later, and that is only when we've done financial, so that you have at least a background of what a loan is and equity is, and yeah, in terms of the business. Okay. All right. Happy to answer any questions with regards to that. Edwin, I was